At 82, I've seen and experienced many things, but there's one decision I deeply regret: moving into a nursing home. At the time, it seemed like the right choice. My family encouraged it, assuring me I'd receive all the care and comfort I needed. I trusted them because they truly wanted what was best for me. I believed I would be surrounded by support, companionship, and the freedom to live comfortably. But once I moved in, reality hit hard. The environment wasn't as welcoming as I had imagined. The routine felt rigid, the sense of community was lacking, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being more of a patient than a person. My independence slipped away little by little, and I found myself longing for the comfort of my own space, the one I had left behind. I know many of you might be considering this option, whether for yourself or a loved one. Maybe you think it's the safest choice, or maybe your family assures you it will make life easier. But before you take that step, I want to share 6 things I wish I had known before moving in. These insights might challenge what you've been told, because life in a nursing home isn't just about convenience, it changes everything. And once you enter, leaving isn't as simple as you might think. Stay with me because some of these lessons might surprise you. If you or someone you know is on the verge of making this life-changing decision, this video could be just what you need to hear before committing to a choice that might be difficult to reverse. Now let's get started. Regret number 1: losing my independence. The biggest shock after moving into a nursing home wasn't the small room, the set meal times, or even the unfamiliar faces. It was the realization that I had lost control over my own life. Before I moved in, I had my routines. I decided when to wake up, when to eat, and how to spend my day. I could take a walk whenever I wanted, cook my own meals, or just sit quietly in my favorite chair with a book. I had freedom, simple, everyday choices that made life feel like my own. But inside the nursing home, I quickly realized that my time was no longer mine. Everything ran on a schedule that wasn't created for me. Breakfast was served at a set time, even if I wasn't hungry. Lights out happened at a specific hour, whether I was ready for bed or not. Want to take a walk outside? You might need permission, and you'll probably have to wait until someone is available to assist you. Simple decisions, like what to eat or even what to wear, started feeling like privileges instead of basic choices. I remember my first week there, waking up in a bed that didn't feel like mine. I sat up, stretched, and reached for the book I had been reading at home. But when I looked around the room, it hit me. This wasn't my home. My books, my favorite chair, the little comforts I had spent years collecting, they were gone. In their place were sterile walls, a bed I didn't choose, and a feeling I couldn't shake. I was no longer in charge of my own life. It's not just about losing material things. It's about losing the freedom to make decisions that define who you are. Before moving into the nursing home, I took my independence for granted. I never thought about how much freedom meant to me until it was gone. In the nursing home, I adapted because I had to. I stopped arguing when they told me what was for dinner. I stopped asking if I could go for a walk whenever I wanted. I learned to fit into their system because resisting only made things harder. But in the process, I started losing myself. The hardest part of losing your independence is realizing that once it's gone, getting it back is almost impossible. You begin to accept that your life has been reshaped, not by your own choices, but by the structure and rules of the facility. You adapt because there's no other option, but every adjustment feels like another piece of yourself slipping away. One of the most disheartening moments came when I wanted to cook a simple meal. I've always enjoyed preparing food. It's something that brought me comfort and joy. But in the nursing home, meals were planned and served on a schedule. I couldn't just decide to whip up a dish when I felt like it. I missed the sound of vegetables sizzling in a pan, the smell of fresh herbs, and the satisfaction of eating something I had made myself. It may sound small, but those moments were a part of my identity. Without them, I felt diminished. I also missed the spontaneity of life. At home, I could decide on a whim to visit a park, water my plants, or rearrange the living room just because I felt like it. In the nursing home, everything required planning and permission. Simple joys were no longer within my reach. The loss of independence also changed how I viewed myself. I had always been a person who valued self-reliance, someone who took pride in making decisions and managing my own life. But in the nursing home, I felt more like a patient than a person, someone to be managed rather than someone with choices. If you're considering moving into a nursing home, ask yourself, are you ready to give up the small freedoms that make life yours? Because once they're gone, you'll miss them more than you ever thought possible. Independence is not just about big decisions. It's about the small, everyday choices that make you feel human. Regret number 2, feeling forgotten. One of the hardest truths about moving into a nursing home is realizing that the world outside keeps moving without you. When I first arrived, my family reassured me that they would visit often. I believed them, and in the beginning, they did. My daughter came by once a week, my grandchildren visited on weekends, and for a little while, it felt like I still had a connection to my old life. But as the months went by, the visits became less frequent. My daughter started calling instead of coming. My grandchildren got busy with school and work. Holidays were the hardest. Everyone promised they'd come, but somehow plans always changed at the last minute. Suddenly, I found myself sitting alone in a common room, watching other residents stare at the door, hoping today would be the day someone remembered them. It wasn't that my family stopped loving me. Life just got in the way. When you're not around every day, it's easy for people to assume you're fine, that you're adjusting, that you don't need as much attention. But the truth is, the longer you're in a nursing home, the easier it is for people to forget just how much you still need them. I remember one evening sitting in my room holding my phone, debating whether to call my son. I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to remind him that I was here, waiting for a visit that might never come. So I put the phone down, and that's when it hit me. This was my life now, watching the days go by, hoping someone would remember to include me. If you're thinking about moving into a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared for the loneliness? Because no matter how much your family loves you, once you're out of sight, it's easier than you think to become out of mind. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any future videos. Now let's move forward. Regret number 3, losing my sense of purpose. When I moved into the nursing home, I thought I was just changing where I lived. I didn't realize I was also changing why I lived. At home, I had responsibilities. I had routines, hobbies, and a reason to get up in the morning. Even the small things, watering the plants, making my own coffee, tidying up my space, gave me a sense of purpose. These tasks, simple as they were, kept my mind sharp and my spirit engaged. But in the nursing home, those daily rituals disappeared. Meals were made for me, cleaning was done by someone else, and the plants, well, they weren't mine to take care of anymore. I remember the first week watching someone else mop the floor and realizing that my hands, once busy and productive, now had nothing to do. At first, I told myself it would be nice to finally relax. No more chores, no more responsibilities, just rest. But after a few weeks, I realized something was missing. The days felt long, stretched out with nothing to do but wait. It wasn't just about boredom. It was about losing the drive to be active, to feel useful. I saw it in other residents too. People who had once been full of energy now spent their days sitting, staring, waiting for time to pass. There was a man named George, 84 years old, who had been a carpenter his entire life. At home, he was always fixing things, building little projects in his garage. But here there were no tools, no projects, nothing for him to create. I watched as he slowly withdrew, his hands, once strong and skilled, now idle in his lap. One day, George looked at me, his eyes heavy with sadness, and said, "I feel useless." I knew exactly what he meant. Without a purpose, he was fading. His body, once strong and capable, now seemed fragile. His mind, once sharp and resourceful, now wandered aimlessly. When you no longer have something to care for, something to work toward, life starts to lose its meaning. The mind slows down, the body follows, and soon you start to feel like just another resident in a place where time moves but nothing really changes. One of the most striking realizations for me was that even the little tasks I used to complain about, like folding laundry or organizing my books, had actually kept me engaged and grounded. Now, with everything done for me, I found myself restless and uneasy. I missed the feeling of accomplishment after finishing a task, no matter how small. Purpose is more than just staying busy. It's about feeling needed, having something to look forward to, and being involved in the rhythms of daily life. I learned that when purpose is taken away, it's not just your schedule that changes, it's your sense of identity. I was no longer the person who took care of things. I was now someone being taken care of. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, what gives your life meaning? Because once you move in, finding purpose isn't as simple as just filling your time. It's about holding on to the things that make you feel alive. Try to think about ways you can maintain that sense of purpose before making the move. Whether it's a hobby you can bring with you, a routine you can maintain, or a way to help others, don't let the transition strip away the core of who you are. If you're still here and finding these reflections helpful, please comment number 3 below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Let's continue this journey together, sharing wisdom and learning from each other's stories. Regret number 4, declining health faster than expected. Before I moved into a nursing home, I was doing pretty well for my age. I wasn't running marathons, but I could still take care of myself. Go for walks, cook my own meals, and manage my daily routines. My morning started with stretching, I made my own breakfast, and I took walks to the grocery store when I needed something. These little habits kept my body moving and my mind sharp. I didn't think much about it at the time, but staying active was my way of holding on to my independence. Then I moved into the nursing home, and everything changed. At first, I thought I was just taking it easy, letting myself relax after years of hard work. Meals were brought to me, and I no longer had to stand in the kitchen to cook. If I needed something, I just pressed a button, and help would arrive. I didn't have to lift a finger if I didn't want to. It seemed like a luxury, but what I didn't realize was that the less I did for myself, the weaker I became. I stopped moving as much, and soon my legs felt stiffer. I was sitting more than I ever used to, and before I knew it, getting up from a chair started feeling like a chore. The muscles I had spent years maintaining were disappearing faster than I could have imagined. I didn't notice it right away because it crept up on me slowly. One day I tried to walk around the garden, something I used to do every evening, and I felt winded and shaky. It hit me then. I was losing my strength, not because of age alone, but because I wasn't using my body the way I used to. And it wasn't just me. I saw it happen to others too. People who walked into the nursing home on their own 2 feet were suddenly relying on wheelchairs. People who had once been independent now needed help with things they never struggled with before. It seemed like the more help we were given, the more we needed it. I remember my neighbor Alice, an 81-year-old woman who was lively when she first arrived. She used to take daily walks around the facility, insisting that she wasn't going to slow down just because of a number. But after a few months, I noticed she wasn't walking as much. Then she started using a walker. Eventually, she was in a wheelchair most of the time. One day she looked at me, a bit teary-eyed, and said, "I don't know when it happened, but I feel like I aged 10 years in just a few months." I understood exactly what she meant. When you stop using your body, you start losing it. And in a nursing home, where everything is designed to make life easier, it's easy to forget that movement isn't just about convenience, it's about survival. If I had known how quickly I would lose my strength, I would have fought harder to keep moving. I would have pushed myself to stay active, even on days when I didn't feel like it. I would have made it a priority to walk, to stretch, and to keep my muscles engaged. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, will you still have the motivation to keep your body strong when everything is set up to make life effortless? Because once you slow down, getting back up isn't as easy as you think. Sometimes I think back to the small routines I used to have, the morning stretches, the walks to the mailbox, the simple act of making my own bed. Those little things kept me connected to my own strength. Now I realize that movement isn't just about staying fit, it's about preserving who you are. The more I relied on the convenience of nursing home life, the more I lost touch with that. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you do so and turn on the bell so you don't miss any of our videos. Your support helps us continue creating content to inform and inspire you. Let's keep moving forward together. Regret number 5, the loss of privacy and dignity. One of the things I didn't fully consider before moving into a nursing home was just how much privacy I would lose. At home, I had my own space. I could close my bedroom door, sit in silence if I wanted, and do things on my own terms. I took for granted the little moments of solitude, like sipping my morning coffee in the quiet of my living room, or choosing when to take a nap without anyone else knowing. But in a nursing home, privacy is a luxury you don't always get to keep. From the moment I arrived, I felt like I was constantly being watched. Staff came in and out of my room for scheduled checks, often without much warning. There were shared spaces where you were rarely alone, and even simple things like getting dressed or using the bathroom often required someone's assistance. I know the staff were just doing their jobs, trying to ensure my safety and well-being, but it's not easy to accept help for things you've done independently your entire life. I remember during my first week there, I struggled with the idea that I had to ask for permission to do things I once did without thinking. Want to take a shower? You might have to wait until someone is available to help. Need to use the restroom? Sometimes pressing the call button means waiting longer than you'd like. It was a strange feeling, being so dependent after spending decades of my life taking care of myself. It made me feel vulnerable in a way I hadn't anticipated. Even meal choices were limited. If you didn't like what was on the menu that day, well, too bad. There was no going to the kitchen to make a sandwich or choosing a different dish. And then there was the issue of roommates. Not everyone gets a private room, and sharing a space with someone else, someone you didn't choose, can be frustrating. I was lucky to have a kind and quiet roommate, but I heard stories from others who weren't so fortunate. Some had roommates who were loud, unclean, or had cognitive issues that made sleep nearly impossible. And no matter how much you try to make your room feel like home, putting up pictures or adding personal touches, it never truly feels like it. You're constantly reminded that it's not your space. Dignity is a hard thing to lose, and I didn't realize how much of mine I'd have to surrender until I was already there. It's not just about privacy, it's about being treated like an individual. Sometimes staff knock, but don't always wait for an answer before coming in. Sometimes you're spoken to like a patient rather than a person. When your daily routines are dictated by a schedule you didn't create, it changes you. You start feeling less like yourself and more like just another name on a list. It's a subtle loss, but it eats away at your sense of identity. I used to take pride in managing my own life, keeping my home organized, deciding when to run errands, and handling my personal care. Losing that independence affected my self-esteem more than I expected. There's something profoundly humbling about having someone else decide when you'll eat, sleep, and even bathe. I remember one day when a nurse came in without knocking. I was in the middle of getting dressed and felt a wave of frustration and embarrassment. She quickly apologized, but that moment stuck with me. It made me realize how easily personal boundaries can be overlooked in a place like this. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared to give up the privacy and control you've had your entire life? Because once it's gone, it's hard to get back. You adapt because you have to, but it doesn't mean you don't miss the freedom to just be yourself without feeling observed or managed. Your dignity is more than just being treated with respect. It's about maintaining your identity and your right to personal space. So before you make the decision to move, think carefully about what privacy means to you. Once it's taken away, it's not something you can easily reclaim. Regret number 6, realizing it's harder to leave than you think. When I first moved into the nursing home, I told myself it was temporary. I thought I'd give it a try, see how things went. And if I didn't like it, I could always leave. It seemed simple enough. If the place didn't suit me, I'd just pack my bags and go back to my own home. I kept telling myself it was just an experiment, not a commitment. But what I didn't realize was just how hard it would be to get out once I was in. At first, I had a sense of control over the decision. I was still mentally sharp and physically capable. I figured I would just give it a few months and then decide. What I didn't consider was that life outside the nursing home would keep moving without me. Home wasn't the same anymore. While I was settling into my new life, my house sat empty. Maintaining it from a distance became more challenging than I expected. My children had already started making changes, selling items they thought I wouldn't need, rearranging things to make space for new uses, and even discussing the possibility of renting it out. I felt as though I was slowly losing my connection to the place that had been my safe haven for so many years. One day when I mentioned that I wanted to move back, my daughter hesitated. "Are you sure you can manage on your own?" she asked gently. "Wouldn't it be safer to stay here? We just want what's best for you." Suddenly, I realized that my decision wasn't entirely mine anymore. My family had adjusted to me being at the nursing home, and the idea of me moving back home seemed almost inconvenient to them. Physical decline and self-doubt. Then there was the issue of my own physical decline. After months of living in a place where I didn't have to cook, clean, or even walk very far, I wasn't as strong as I used to be. My legs, once sturdy from daily walks and chores, had grown weaker. The independence I once took pride in had quietly slipped away, making the thought of living alone more daunting than it had ever been. I wasn't as confident in my ability to take care of myself, and that fear kept me stuck where I was. I wasn't the only one. I met others who had similar stories, people who thought they'd just try the nursing home for a while, only to realize that leaving wasn't as simple as they had imagined. The longer they stayed, the more they adapted to the environment, and the harder it became to even think about moving back home. Some had sold their houses to cover the cost of care. Others had lost the support systems they once relied on. The life they once knew seemed distant and unattainable. The illusion of a reversible decision. That's the part nobody tells you. Moving in feels like a decision you can reverse, but for most people it isn't. The nursing home slowly becomes your whole world. Familiar faces become a part of your routine, even if you don't particularly like them. Meals are served at the same time every day, activities follow a set schedule, and you start to lose touch with the world outside. Leaving feels less and less realistic as time goes on. And then there are the financial barriers. Nursing home care is expensive, and once your savings start to dwindle, leaving can mean facing financial insecurity. Some residents lost the option entirely once their homes were sold or their funds were drained. For them, the choice was no longer theirs to make. The psychological trap. I remember talking to Ed, one of the other residents, about how hard it was to think about leaving. He summed it up perfectly when he said, "I didn't realize this place would start feeling like a cage. Not because it's bad, but because the outside world starts feeling so far away." That really hit me. Moving in seemed like a simple choice, but staying had slowly become a necessity. It wasn't that I hated the nursing home. I had friends, a routine, and familiar faces around me. But the thought of leaving felt impossible because I had become used to this new way of life. The more comfortable I became, the more I doubted my ability to go back to the independence I once had. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you do so and turn on the bell for notifications. Your support helps us continue creating content to inform and inspire you. Final thoughts. Looking back, I don't regret growing older, but I do regret thinking that moving into a nursing home was a decision I could easily undo. It's not just a change of address, it's a change of life, one that's harder to reverse than I ever imagined. If I could go back, I would have considered more ways to maintain my independence before taking such a big step. Thank you for joining me today. If you found this video helpful, please like and share it. Your thoughts and experiences matter, so leave a comment below and let us know what you've learned.